Alexander Ramsey Jr., known as Alec, leaned over the rail of the tramp steamer Drake, watching the coast of India slowly fade into the Arabian Sea. He'd had a fun 2 months, but now he was settling in for the long journey home. Deep inside the cargo hold was a very different passenger, a massive, untamed black stallion. He belonged to no one, and no one dared get near his stall. He was a creature of pure, raw wilderness, temporarily trapped in a wooden box. That fragile boundary between boy and horse shattered when a sudden ocean storm struck. The Drake didn't stand a chance. The ship was violently destroyed, plummeting into the churning dark water. The shipwreck erased human order in an instant. There were no cages, no crew, and no rules. Boy and beast were thrust into a primal fight for survival, where their previous realities no longer applied. Thrown into the freezing waves, Alec swam desperately. He saw the stallion fighting the heavy breakers, dragging a long rope that had been tied around his neck. In a desperate bid for survival, Alec lunged for the lifeline and wrapped it tightly around his waist. It was an incredible risk. Alec was now tethered to a panicked creature in violent open water. One wrong move, one thrash of those massive hooves, and he could easily be dragged under or trampled. But the horse possessed unbelievable stamina. Powered by raw strength, the stallion pulled them both through the crashing breakers, dragging Alec out of the shallows until they collapsed onto the white sand of a deserted beach. They had survived the ocean's fury. Now, entirely stranded, a new psychological test began. They had to figure out how to coexist if they were going to survive the island. Alec knew the starving horse needed food. Taking deliberate first steps to build trust, he climbed down a rocky cliff near the water, risking snake bites just to gather a shirt full of a special moss to feed the animal. Over the next few days, they circled each other. Step by step, the physical distance between the boy and the beast slowly shrank, along with their mutual fear. Then came the turning point. Alec walked slowly toward the towering horse, speaking softly. He cautiously reached out and laid his hand squarely on the stallion's savage head. The stallion quivered, his muscles twitching, but he stayed still. He allowed the boy to touch him without bolting or attacking, a quiet signal that the creature's initial terror was finally giving way to understanding. This shared risk changed their dynamic for good. This moment turned their forced proximity into a willing connection, marking the start of a partnership that would eventually become unbreakable. Eventually, they were rescued. But returning to civilization meant bringing a truly wild animal into the bustling sensory overload of New York City. The harbor docks were an absolute assault on the blacks' senses. The blazing headlights from trucks, the shouting crowds, and the mechanical roar of the city terrified the stallion. The tension snapped when a policeman ran up with a drawn gun. The black reared high into the air in a blind panic, his heavy forelegs coming down on either side of Alec's head, nearly crushing the boy against the gangplank. Shaken but determined, Alec waved the men back and intervened. He approached the frightened animal alone. Speaking softly, he placed a hand on his neck, offering a piece of sugar, and waited until the wild look faded from the horse's eyes. The roles they played on the island had flipped. Alec had survived the shipwreck by clinging to the horse's strength. But in the heart of New York, the horse could only navigate the chaos by trusting Alec's protection. To give the black space to decompress, Alec relocated him to a quiet barn. There, the stallion befriended an older, calming horse named Napoleon, finally finding a sense of peace. The barn belonged to Henry, a retired racehorse trainer. Henry took one look at the black's massive chest and long legs and immediately recognized a staggering, untapped racing potential. That potential was unleashed during a breathtaking night ride. Alec mounted the stallion bareback across an open field. The black took the bit in his teeth and ran at a hurricane-like speed, faster than he ever had before. Alec couldn't stop him, but he didn't need to. The horse didn't submit to the ride out of fear or dominance. He ran from sheer joy, a willing partner racing for the love of the boy on his back. Knowing what they had, Henry and Alec began intense preparations. Their goal was to enter the black in a massive match race in Chicago, competing directly against the greatest champion horses in the country. But raw speed wasn't enough. Henry had to teach Alec professional racing tactics, showing the boy how to harness the black's wild, explosive energy within the strict rules of a formal track. In Chicago, the black's performance came from their absolute coordination. Alec didn't need a whip to urge him forward. He simply leaned in, and the stallion responded, running with a ferocity that could only come from a horse who trusts the person on his back. Their success was the ultimate proof of their bond. Alec had cultivated the horse's spirit through empathy and patience until they became a single, unstoppable force.